Pickaxe.
Looking for ad-free episodes, exclusive behind-the-scenes content, or maybe even hilarious monthly one-shots? How about the best way to support your favorite podcast, all for less than the price of one cup of coffee? Or maybe you just want to see Jett in some incredibly short shorts now that we've hit 150 patrons. All that and so much more over at patreon.com/castparty. So head on over and join the greatest community this side of the TTRPG world. You'll get access to hours upon hours of exclusive bonus content and an invite to our community Discord, where we host live listening parties with all of us for every single Cast Party episode, community-driven D&D games, live streams, hangouts, and game nights. Patreon.com/castparty. We'll see you there. Thank you all so much for listening. Enjoy the episode, cast and crew.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Fables of Fendraeya, Arcanum. My name is Jose Polino, or at DM Jose P, TikToks and other fun socials, and I will be your director for today's reunion. I am joined by my lovely group of just the best people. Well, let's go ahead and introduce them, starting with our lovely cast and crew, beginning with Ryan.
Hi, Ryan McManus. I will be playing Rowan Fairisle, Half-Light of Selune, Aspirant of Scytia, Cockblock of Hades, and soon-to-be Bane of the Arcanum. And you can find me on my socials at rye.mcmanus or running the Cast Party socials at Cast Party D&D.
Nice. All right. Andy.
Hello, beautiful nerds. My name is Andy, and I will be playing Five, a hopeful, sad boy forged druid searching for his purpose, his true potential, free of protocols. And you can find me at Mr. Dandy DM on TikTok, YouTube, and on all the other socials.
Annie.
Hi, I'm Annie. I'm nervous. I will be playing Eridina Albrecht, who stole the light, who broke the gates, and who, for the very first time, is her own boss. You can find me as Cantrip on all the socials that I care about.
And finally, we have Sin.
Salutations, my name is Sin, and I'll be playing Zue, collector of chronicles, now aspiring to herald their own history. And you can find me on all of my socials as sensationally.me, CIN instead of SEN.
Rowan and Rid, as you walk towards the sound of running water, what sounds like a stream coming up ahead, perhaps some body of water, something that could at least point your direction somewhere beyond this infinite landscape. You, Rid, look over to Rowan, and Rowan, you sort of find yourself stuck. Like you feel that your body can't move. And then Rid, in that moment, you sort of feel this feeling of being trapped. You feel that if you keep journeying ahead, that sound, no matter how long you keep walking for, will just keep going and going and going, and who truly knows if you'll ever get there. Now, Zue, you wake up amongst the clearing, the slanted clearing of land where you found Seven, where this sort of tumultuous event transpired. You look around you and you see Rowan and Rid completely passed out on the ground, and then to your left you see Five. You look at Five and there is like a light that is being emitted from somewhere, but it's kind of like slightly pulsing, beginning to turn on entirely. Is there anything you would like to do?
So Zue looks around a little bit panicked and just goes, fuck. I want to change back into the human form of Zue. And I'm going to check on Five first to make sure that he's okay.
Five, as you're still within this infinite space that you were with Zue, this burnt jungle forest landscape, you hear the voice of 7.
Brother.
And it's echoing in your mind.
Brother. 5.
Almost calling to you. What would you like to do?
5 responds, Yes. Yes, brother.
I need you up. And I need you up now.
Up where?
You wake up now to your surprise as Zue is just reverting back to their human form. You find yourself just jolted awake. And as soon as your eyes open, you see in your hand the thorn beside, glowing. This bright light that now, Zue, you notice is just like the purest form of light you could have ever imagined, glowing. And as soon as you notice that, you feel it almost from, you don't know if it's the thorn beside or if it's the validite. But as soon as you look at it, you hear your brother say,
Now go on.
5 very slowly gets to his feet. He puts his hands, if they'll allow it, on Zue's shoulders. He looks down at them and says, Are you okay?
Yes, I'm okay.
Thank you. I couldn't have asked for a better friend to go through all of that with. We learned a lot.
Zue does that soft smile that Zue's been giving 5 a lot recently. Me neither. I think I am going to stay in this form for a little while, though. I don't know if I'm quite ready for Rid or Rowan to see this. The other me.
Understood.
Rid and Rowan, you can almost make out what sounds like echoes off in the distance.
The other me.
Understood.
But you can't really make out what they are.
I was planning on walking up to Rowan and Rid to see if they were still showing signs of life. And if so, I wanted to cast False Life on Rid first, and then Rowan.
You walk up to them, and keep in mind, the 4 of you are completely drenched, wet from head to toe. The grass and the landscape around you, also, you feel its effects. The maelstrom, if you will, that happened through this place. You can see the effects of it. There are leaves scattered, trees knocked over. There is a good amount of commotion that happened here. As you walk up to Rid, very faintly, you can kind of hear breathing, but it's very faint. You can make out a very faint but weak heart. And you begin to cast False Life on Rid. Describe to me how you cast the spell.
As I walk up to Rid and I realize that she is still breathing and alive, even if barely, I am going to cup her face with one hand, put my forehead against hers, as I try to give some of the emotions that are whirring around inside of me as a form of energy into Rid's body.
Rid, as you sort of hear this echo in this area and space you find yourself, you can't help but feel your cheek grow a little warm. And then you feel like if somebody was just essentially placing their forehead against yours, you feel like something is trying to reach out. Zue, go ahead and roll a 1d4 plus 4 for me.
That is 7 total.
Rid, you look over at Rowan. Rowan, you look back at Rid. Just before you can say anything, Rid, you feel the air leave you as, before you, Rowan, Rid just vanishes, and you wake up with 7 hit points. You wake up in the same space with Zue in front of you and 5 behind.
Rid wakes with a start, and just the way it feels to bring air back into your lungs. And then she registers Zue, registers 5, registers Rowan on the ground, and kind of scrabbles back reflexively, putting about 2 feet between herself and Zue. And she's just breathing, taking stock of everything.
Zue has a look of hurt flash across their face for a second, but decides that it's more important to check on Rowan first. And I'm gonna go check on Rowan.
Rowan, as you're now alone, the fog around you begins to roll in. And from the distance, you can almost make out Hades behind a tree about 40 feet away from you. And all you can see from the darkness is just one piercing silver eye that pierces through the darkness in your direction.
Seeing Rid disappear, and just knowing that Hades is always watching, I peer back into the glowing eye, and just a very soft nod, chin to chest, and back up, and just wait.
Not as intimately close with Rid, Zue is going to touch Rowan's face. Think about the things that she has thought about Rowan in the past and feels a slight pang of guilt as they also cast False Life on Rowan as well.
Rowan, you acknowledge Hades, and then Hades removes his hood, and then in a very weird and sort of unfamiliar moment, Hades nods his head to you. And as he does, you watch as the mist parts away from you, that now you notice almost seemed like hands trying to clutch you, and they were beginning to sort of take hold of you. And then you feel a spark within your chest as your lungs fill with water, and you wake up, coughing up water.
Fuck! We're back. We're back? I see Zue and I look for 5 and Rid.
Rowan, are you okay?
I thought he was just sending me on. I didn't think he would send me back here. You're okay. We're all okay?
We all seem to be.
Rowan, you wake up with how many hit points, Zue?
8.
Even though 5 is addressing Rowan in this moment, he is frantically looking for Rid, who skittered back, just to make sure that she is back too.
Rid is on her back when you sit up on kind of your elbows. For a second, with the breathing, with everything, and they've all just gone through, she looks like a scared animal for about half a second before the walls come down, and it's the monotone, dead-eye expression. And she seems to just be gathering herself.
That was all a dream, right, Rid? You saw none of that, right?
I saw all of it. And so did you.
Fuck. I take it that means he got to you guys too. As I look over to Zue and 5. One by one or together?
Together.
Little bit of column A, little bit of column B.
At least you had each other to get through it.
Thankfully, yes.
If 5 could show a facial expression, it would be a warm smile in Zue's direction. We managed. Out and up.
Out and up.
But why? Why are we back? I thought I was passing on. I thought he was sending me through to the other side. Why did he send us back?
Because they made a deal. And Rids gets up from the ground and is kind of drawing herself up back into her full height. Her hair has come out of its usual ponytail braid, and she shakes her hand, kind of like a magic trick from her wrist, a light blue ribbon that's softly glowing, and she reaches up and uses it to tie back her hair. And she looks at Zue and 5, and then focuses more on 5. Didn't you?
No deal was made. Not by me. For deals, you would have to look to this one. Gestures at Zue.
What did you give? Had to have been pretty important.
The time I had left.
So why are you here?
A second chance. I don't know what happened with you, but Hades is not as bad as we make him out to be, I think.
Then boy, did we have different experiences.
Our experiences were terrifying, impossibly hard.
Very hard.
But we learned things. Things about ourselves, things about each other. I would say we learned a bit about what our purpose is.
I feel Hades showed us that whatever purpose we have doesn't even matter.
That is very different from what we experienced.
What is our purpose here? Just to get home, to stop the Arcanum? Hades showed us our past and our future. I saw my nephew make a fucking deal with the Arcanum. If we can't stop them, what is our purpose? If they're just going to step aside, make deals, let them rule places that we once loved, especially after knowing they did all this. And Rid was the same. Her home, almost gifted to the Arcanum.
We don't know that. It was a possible future.
It's Hades. He showed us our past and it was obvious that it was true.
Because our past has happened. The future hasn't happened yet.
I will say there were aspects of my past that were shown. But in terms of my past, there were moments where there were memories that were not mine. I know that I saw several moments in Seven's memories. We were traveling within his mind. Seven was not the villain that I made him out to be.
It's convenient you figure that out after you try to murder him.
5 pauses, feeling the sting, and remembering the moment.
That's not fair to say to 5. He didn't know better.
Should we talk about fair things to say, Zue?
Zue takes a deep breath before shifting into true form. I was hoping we'd all feel a little better before we had this conversation.
That same bald, blue-skinned individual, freckles on the cheeks, slightly pointed ears, is looking back at you, Rid.
I don't feel better. I'm so glad you had a wonderful little field trip with Hades, but Rowan and I didn't. Rowan and I learned things, and they weren't happy things.
I never said that it was fun, okay? Just because 5 and I chose to take positive things from the shitty things we had to relive does not mean we had fun fucking field trips.
It is interesting to see the real you. If this is it. How much was real?
I care about you and Rowan. Sometimes we have to make choices that help us survive. I never intentionally hurt either of you.
So what's your actual relationship with the Arcanum? And I wouldn't recommend lying.
Tell them. Tell them, Zue.
I was taken in by Ilianos. And he gives me jobs. I'm nothing more than just a tool. And you see Zue's hands kind of starting to clench up into fists.
And Zue, I'll say that in that moment, you realize that your book is still on you.
Can I ask a question, Zue?
Zue gives a nod without looking at Rowan.
It's a shot in the dark, but your list of names. Does Kraden ring a bell?
Make a history check, Zue.
19.
There are a lot of members of the Arcanum, but there are also a lot of members of the Arcanum that if you are but a tool to the Arcanum, who's to say what other sort of avenues and secret sort of connecting tunnels the Arcanum has within itself? So unfortunately, no, the name Kraden does not ring a word to you.
No, I haven't heard of that name.
Not a hint. Not a whisper.
Not that I know of.
Rowan's grip loosens on the handle of his lamp.
You know, you told those two back in the town that you had, like, a truth spell. I think that would be a welcome addition to this conversation. Because I'm sorry, I don't know if I can take that at its word.
So you can all make a charisma throw, if you would like to, and then I know who passes and who doesn't pass. Zue is going to purposely choose to fail, but Zue draws the symbol for the word truth in common as a little sphere kind of glows around everyone.
Let's talk. Rowan fails.
5 also fails.
Rid also fails.
I haven't heard that name. When or if we get back, I am happy to ask around, but I haven't heard it.
So, if you're a tool to the Arcanum, how do you feel about them now? Because a little while ago, Ilianos was like family. Your words.
I'm confused, and I still feel for Ilianos. It hasn't changed that this is the only person who has ever accepted me for me. But up until recently, I've never had a choice in how I feel about the Arcanum.
What do you mean?
Red, I look like a freak. I am a freak. When you are a tool and the only thing you can do is to change to survive, you don't get to choose how your user feels about you. You do what you need to.
Rowan and Rid, as you're in this moment, you can't help but notice not as bright anymore, but fairly bright light coming from 5.
Did you bring back a souvenir, 5?
5 in this moment, in the process of just reaching out just to put a comforting hand on Zue's shoulder. And then he looks down.
You see the thorn beside glowing. Just same way you saw it when you almost heard it like your brother was speaking through it to you. But you see that glowing. And right where that red leaf sprouted from you, you feel almost as if something was just holding its finger in that space. Like you feel a pressure there as well. And your connection to the Validite makes it feel like a heartbeat. So you're almost like feeling 3 different things on you at once.
5 looks down at the area where the leaf and that hand that was holding the leaf was. What is happening with the leaf in this moment?
The leaf, its red coloration, is now almost like booming with life. The red leaf is just as vibrant as red can be, and all of the interconnecting webs and sort of details that make the leaf, they look like small freeways of just ever circulating energy, constantly moving there on you.
Am I able to reach down and gently try and pull what is growing out of me?
Very carefully, you pull back. As your fingers sort of curl around the stem of it, you can't help but feel your heart or your Validite pulsing. Energy constantly moving. And you pluck it out. And the leaf remains vibrant, full of life, but now almost feverishly glowing in front of you. It looks like it's alive, a living, breathing organism showing itself to you.
Well, hello there, little one. What can I do for you?
As you speak those words into the leaf, no response back, but more as in when you look at it, you can't help but feel that, like everything around here, plucked, dried, dead, this thing is asking you for something, but you can't make out what that is. It's asking for you to look upon it. It wants your attention, but nothing more. You can't help but fixate on this form of life in such a small way, asking for an audience.
5 completely delayed response to Rowan's question. Distractedly, after plucking the leaf and holding it here, and also, in the other hand, holding the Thornbosite.
With the piece missing from it.
I'm still in possession of Seven's Validite crystal, correct?
His Validite crystal is also that second, almost heart-like beating that you also sort of like are connected to, that you hear as well.
Rowan, I'm so sorry. I was distracted. Plants, I love, you know me. I love plants.
Oh, I know.
The Haveneye leaf. This is it.
It's grown quite a bit since last time.
I know. I know. If Hades showed me so many dark and terrible things.
Right there with you, my friend.
But this, and he holds the Thornbosite and he gestures at Seven's Validite.
Rowan and Rid, what you see is a blue gem that is very finely, beautifully crafted, but in a very natural way that comes down to a very fine point. And on one side of it, there's just a piece that is just missing. It's been carved in. It just seems like it's shattered off of it. But it is still very prestige, beautiful looking, that looks like it has that natural wear and tear to it. You've never seen anything like this.
Rowan, hold this for me for a second. And he offers the Thornbosite crystal to Rowan.
Reaches out and places it in one hand. Can you explain what this is?
Wait, do we recognize it from our Hades field trip?
You recognize it as that gem that burst from the top of the tower and went off in the distance.
This is what Seven was looking for. This is the Thornbosite, is it not?
Aye. This is
how we get home.
5 is going to take out Seven's crystal. Just remembering that 7 was the one who was able to access the Thornbosite and the Haveneye and was able to travel. He's going to take 7's crystal and place it within the crack of the Thornbosite, the missing piece. And then he's also paying very close attention to the leaf. He's going to touch the stem of the leaf directly onto where the Validite crystal and the Thornbosite gem meet.
Rowan, you hold it. 5 places the Validite. 5, you bring the stem of this leaf closer to it. And the ever-moving pieces within it, faster and faster and faster and faster. You feel your Validite almost like giving you energy. You feel connected. You hear the wind, the crackling of leaves, the trees creaking, all of it in unison. And you go to place the stem. And as you do, the stem grows all around the Thornbosite, encapsulating Rowan's hand within it too. And it all just sort of like traps itself together. You can see what looks like vines and twigs and just sort of like dead, decaying life around the Thornbosite show you through it the Thornbosite and the piece of the Validite. And then slowly all of it begins to blossom as one leaf, another, and another now begin to sprout from it in different shapes and sizes, different textures, all different forms of the same thing being presented to you. And as all of it sort of glows, now Rowan is almost holding like a mound of leaves, this very weird sort of shape and thing. Rowan, as you sort of like look at it, one by one, all of those vines and twigs begin to revert back in the direction of the Validite, now forming what looks like a cocoon of sorts around the crystal, the Validite crystal. And a light, bright red, glowing, and a sound almost like the sound of two stars crashing somewhere outside in the vast galaxies. A sound you can't even put to words, but the merriment of nature and the cosmos coming together. And the Validite is pushed. The leaves fall. Whatever branches remain fall to the ground. And there, in your hand, Rowan, you hold this blue thornbasite with what clearly looks like an embedded crystal, polished and clean, right where that crack was. But holding it together, flush against the face of the crystal, is the single red leaf.
Well done, 5. Toss it back to him.
I wish I could say I knew what just happened.
You secured our way home. That's what you did.
Can we not throw around the way home in the air, please?
Yeah, fine.
5 is going to talk to the crystal, trying to coax an answer out of it, hoping that the Validite housing what piece of 7 remains is able to talk back to him as it's found a new home.
Brother, if you're there, can you show us a way home?
You look at the crystal. Nothing. No response.
I'm not doing something right, 5 says to Rowan.
Wrong place, wrong time.
Maybe.
The Haven I might be able to.
5 looks at Rowan and at Rid.
Sounds like both of you had a very rough go of it. Rowan, you've said that both yours and Rid's homes are lost in a uncertain future.
At least that's what Hades showed us. He brought me back to a time, brought me forward to a time where my nephew Tarquin greeted an Arcanum carriage at the gates. A deal was struck. Rid's future held the same. I don't know what that means. I don't know if it's true. But everything else he showed me was just as I lived it years past.
Rid has heard the last part of that as through like a fishbowl. Like she's not really paying attention, honestly, to all of this that's happening. She's staring at Zue. When she hears a deal was struck, her eyes back up to Zue. What did you mean the time you have left?
That's what Hades told me. He told me when I agreed to make a deal that was the deal that was struck.
Meaning what?
I had been desperate enough in that moment to give what I had left to help everyone else.
Why would you do that?
Rid, I am a liar. But I'm not a monster. I have always cared about you.
Ilianas will always be the only person who accepts you for you if he's the only one you show yourself to. What were you afraid of?
Rid, I know you're not an idiot. What do you think I was afraid of? Fear doesn't come from nothing. Fear comes from experiences that show you how much of a freak you are, if you are one.
So what happened?
I've been shown time and time again that I am only good as long as I am useful. Otherwise, I am just a freak who changes.
What did Hades show you?
My mistakes. The things I did and the things I wasn't letting go of.
Okay. So, what are you going to do with that?
I'm going to stop pretending that all I am is a background character.
It's the first hint of a smile on Rid's face. Good.
I'll say, Rid, make a perception check for me.
That is a natural 20, so a 23.
You look, and Zue's book, there is almost like a burnt mark that stretches towards the spine from what looks like the back of it.
Rid lifts her chin at the book. Did you do that? Or did he?
I did it. Kind of.
Why?
I tried to get rid of it. I don't need it anymore. I guess it came back because it wasn't actually physically happening.
But you notice, Zue, the eye is gone.
Zue notices this detail for a second as they pull the book out of its holster, chucks it on the ground between them and Rid.
Rid takes the blue ribbon out of her hair so that her hair falls around her shoulders, and she holds it up to Zue, and she says, "Read it. I know you can. It is a thought strand."
Zue is going to look at Rid a little confused at first, and remembers the connection that the two of them have, and casts Detect Thoughts by wrapping a little bit of copper to the end of this ribbon.
It is a series of fleeting images. It starts with Elverath, a castle in a lot of snow, and it flashes between the outside of the castle, door of the castle. Here's the king, here's the queen, here's the princess, and here's the princess's younger sister, who looks just like the form Rid took when she disguised herself as a human. And it's all these flashing images of this past Rid, with her sister, with her mother, with her father, ballroom dancing lessons, fancy dinners, shit she did not like. Then,
Apologies, Your Grace. A most unfortunate time.
Creighton Altez, Arcanum specialist, coming to the door, shaking her sister's hand.
I apologize for my rudeness upon your hall. If the Queen requests that I leave, then I thank you for the meal, I thank you for the ale, and I bid you good night.
A flash of light as their hands connect. That sister, getting sick,
Please. My daughter's dying.
weak,
Will you help us?
and over this you hear Eridina Albrecht of House Albrecht in Elverath. Preferred aliases, Rid.
Zue holds the ribbon a little tighter. I am going to send a telepathic message to just Rid. Thank you. I don't know where to go from here. I've never been in this situation. Usually, when a fight happens, is when I leave. But I don't want to leave.
Then don't. Big sigh out loud. She hugs Zue very tightly and then releases her almost as immediately and says out loud, "Sometimes people are just blue."
And sometimes people are just purple.
If you say you weren't involved with Creighton, I believe you. But you need to know that this is what the Arcanum does. And I refuse to accept that you have limited time. That's not happening.
We all have limited time. That's what makes life special. You can keep the book.
Come again?
They're all technically stories I was part of, and you are my favorite character.
Red picks up the book, kind of awkwardly by the spine, not sure what to do with it, and looks at Zue. You decide how this ends.
I think we all do. And Zue looks at Rowan too, to include him, realizing that they have been ignoring Rowan.
Rid gives a little start like she just remembered Rowan and Five were there.
Zue, from the start, you've told me I'm a side character. It's fine.
You might be a side character, but you are a main course.
Oh, we have to talk about that whole thing.
That was an ordeal. We'll get there. Speaking of, can I look around for my owl?
Go ahead and make a perception check.
22.
You look sort of like remembering. Yes, my owl. You look around and you don't see it anywhere. You sort of like do a second glance because you could swear you can see your owl perched up on an arm of a cloaked individual. And sort of as you pass by it and then come back, your owl is actually just on a branch that then just flies in your direction.
I'm gonna take that as me just waking up. It's good to know she's still here.
Speaking of, do we all want to maybe rest?
Might not be a bad idea.
No, I'm fine. Let me at him.
How far back is it to the tower? Do we champ it out, or do we make camp here? I am a little dizzy.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't have much in me in the way of energy.
What do we even do with the Thornbasite? How do we use it to get back? Is that something that has to happen at the Haveneye?
That's where it came from.
I'm not entirely sure if that is in fact its purpose anymore. This Thornbasite, combined with Seven's Validite, and the gift of the Haveneye in the form of this leaf, it seems desperate to talk to me. It wants my full attention. I probably would benefit from a rest.
Hey, the statue back in the town was holding one of those, wasn't it? Holding a gem as though it meant to be presented.
That it was. The Haveneye spoke to you once before, Five, right?
Yes, but something that Hades said when we were together is that it is not a reliable narrator. The images and visions that it showed of Seven were not accurate. Now that I think about it, the visions it showed me, in their inaccuracy, were just meant to get me to Seven. It played on my desperation.
It got you where you needed to go. And it got you what we needed to get home. Hades showed us, in my vision, the downfall of Irimsal, and that crystal shooting out from the top of the tower, in the direction of Seven.
He started showing us a little bit of that too.
In Seven's memories, Seven was a tool. He was used by the Arcanum. He was their means by which they might harness certain powers, and their misuse of it is what caused this Thornbasite crystal to be launched.
Sounds like the Arcanum is pretty good at harnessing the powers that they can't control.
I feel like something bad is going to happen to Burnedarium. In the same way that Hades showed you a certain fate for your homes, Hades showed me a possible future where Burnedarium is utterly annihilated, devoid of life, and the gnomes abandon it, along with what remainder of my brothers and sisters.
Do you think it was just to torment us? To get us fired up to go after the Arcanum? Or do you think this is all for nothing and it's gonna happen no matter what?
It's not definite. It's not gonna be. It is a potential future. There are many others.
I don't think it hurts to try.
Then try we must. And sleep we must. Zue!
Zue begins making dirt to form Zue's tiny hut.
I can't believe you already forgot your manners.
Zue, please! Sorry, Your Highness.
Your Highness.
Oh, right, I guess you are royalty now. Or always was. As Zue's shaping, Zue turns to everyone. Did we want separate rooms again?
One for me, please.
No.
Just kidding.
Five thinks about the question and hears Rowan's answer and gently coaxes Rowan with like a nudge to his elbow. Based on our experience, I feel like we do better with just one room.
Oh, you're right. Let's grab our blankets and cuddle up by the fire.
It's just because he wants to talk to his girlfriend, Mom.
I need to make sure she's still here.
So Zue's gonna cast the tiny hut, and it's gonna look at like the same tavern scene from the last time we were all together, except this time there are a bunch of blue and gold pillows in the corner just for Rowan, as a compromise.
I'll take it.
I'll say that you guys also notice Rowan's armor is entirely sort of new and vibrant, a more sort of prestige-looking presentation altogether of what essentially looks like an altered, heightened version of his other armor.
Zue's gonna touch the armor. Did you go shopping?
Oh, right. This was a gift from Saitia. Thank you. I think it fits wonderfully.
Saitia?
Who?
You people do not know your history. Look, in the sky, 3 moons. Selune, Saitia, okay? There's one big one for Selune. The one to the left, Saitia. Do you not know your gods and goddesses?
No.
Five just sort of holds his hand out in front of Rowan and says, Rowan, calm your storm.
Look, he's been through a lot today, okay?
Thank you.
Understandable.
We almost died.
Multiple times.
5 almost killed me.
What?
Damn. Way to just throw that out there.
I didn't... I
Not on purpose.
I was fighting an inky manifestation of a serpent?
Did you guys figure out if 5 has weird programming stuff going on in his brain? Because that seems important to know.
He has a soul.
Oh,
And Zue smiles at 5.
Well, that's a relief.
congratulations.
Thinks about that for a second and says, it was not immediately apparent, but apparently the Forged do have a place in whatever realm Hades occupies. He accepted 7 in his state. I guess in some small way that indicates that there was a soul to be taken.
That must bring you some sense of peace.
Peace and purpose.
Well, let's find out what that purpose is.
I'm sorry, I've been yelling at you about your brother 5. It's a sore spot.
Why?
Because the Arcanum killed my sister.
5 clicks on Rid in this moment. It seems that we all have a grudge or a bone to pick with the Arcanum. They all are responsible for taking people and places that we loved. Your sister, your kingdom, my brother.
And Zue's freedom.
I refuse a future where they win, because I'm going to burn them down.
I also feel like I should maybe confess something because 5 got to see it, and I feel like it's only fair if you all get to make informed choices about whether or not you want to keep going with me. I have often left my parties when things go bad. I have made choices in the past that got people killed. I don't intend to do it, and I plan to be better about it, and I know that that is hard to believe, right now, but I haven't always made the best choices.
Everyone has to start somewhere. Tiny steps. In the right direction. Thank you for telling us. And we're glad you're still here. And we hope you stay here. We appreciate your honesty and transparency. And for saving us. If it weren't for you, we all would have drowned. You're the reason we're still here.
Rid looks at Rowan and thinks of how Diana was always the better one at talking, and smiles and nods.
Zue cracks a half smile. Is that a compliment I'm getting from you, Rowan?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Zue is gonna hug Rowan.
Right on in.
Right on in. I'm sorry I've always been really sassy towards you.
You're just making me better at being sassy towards Rid. Thank you.
Zue laughs.
Rid rolls her eyes. Oh, as long as we're sharing things about making informed decisions,
Same.
I'm kind of 3 people.
Oh, that's way more important than mine.
Three people? How does that work?
Rid holds up 3 fingers in a mockery of the way Rowan held up the 3 for the moons. 3. There's me, and there's Olga, you've met, and then there's my sister.
You watch us out of the 3 fingers that she holds up when she says Olga, that middle finger snaps in half.
Oh, God. Vile.
Yes, you cannot be forgetting about me, because at the end of the day, all welcomes are welcomed, or whatever it is that you mortals say upon entering homes, and the disgusting courtesies.
Rid looks at Zue and knows and holds out her finger in case Zue wants to touch it.
Zue side-eyes 5 and Rowan before quickly touching it to feel if the texture's different.
Rid doesn't seem too fazed by it, and even as you're sort of studying it, you watch as the finger itself snap back into place.
Anyway, Rowan, what was yours?
Tell me, Rid, how am I supposed to follow 3 people in 1 human, please?
I don't know. It's not my problem.
Since we're all being honest, and showing our weird marks, Rowan unclips the plate chest mail and tosses it in his corner with his pillows. Has kind of just a cotton blank shirt on that has a little deep cut in the center, and he pulls apart the seams around the neck, and you all see, scarred and almost burned into his skin, 2 eyes and 7 stars surrounding it. It's not as... yeah.
No. It was cool. She burned it into him.
You had to be there. It's okay. But, since everyone was honest, I thought I would share because it's something that I'm a little embarrassed about. But it seems that we're all marked in some way or another.
Can I touch it?
Sure.
Fascinating.
I thought so too.
Is this where your magic comes from?
A side effect. So we're all in this together then, right? Say fuck the Arcanum together.
Zue puts their hand, looking at 5 to indicate for 5 to do the same, that has the leaf painted on it, and then also holds out ink for everyone else. We did it so we could know who was who, but now it feels like we should just all match.
Go for it.
And Zue paints a little ink leaf on Rowan's hand.
Rid reaches out her hands in much the same way she did and puts her hands over Zue's for a moment and just squeezes and then holds her hand out for the leaf.
There. Now we've all got the same mark.
Zue, did you have a name for your story about us?
I did, but it had the title of Fendraeya in it, and we're not exactly in Fendraeya anymore.
Can I recommend a title to you?
Of course.
How about The Mocked?
Zue smiles. I love that.
Nod.
It seems very fitting.
I'm good to sleep.
Zue's also good to sleep. Zue needs this long rest.
Yes. Same.
5 will also go into sentry mode, but would like to spend some time studying the Thornbasite crystal and the leaf that it contains.
Go ahead and give me an investigation check.
This is an 18.
One by one, you all begin to sort of let go of all of that tension, and you find yourself succumbing to the extreme exhaustion that your bodies and your mind were sort of put through. And 5, you take this moment to take the Thornbasite and to study it and look at it closer. You see now where that piece was completely cracked and shattered. The Validite now just sort of has been molded to fit perfectly. Just looks like one whole piece. The leaf itself embedded, almost like you threw some varnish on top of it. It's just all one piece. But as you look at it, there really isn't anything that you can decipher from it. Say the one thing that you can see. And you don't know if it's coming from inside of the Thornbasite. You don't know if it's your mind playing tricks on you. But all of you, at once, see that same red tiefling boy. 5, you see the boy looking lost. Zue, you see the boy changing. And Rid and Rowan, you see a boy interacting with Hades. Sadness turning into happiness. And the Thornbasite to you 5 gives you nothing, but it's still almost calling to you for an answer. Like your job is not quite done. I'll say with that, you all wake up, fully healed, but you wake up to the same gray skies above, the cold, chilling air. But the trees around you that were once sort of broken, shattered, and scattered about this clearing are all renewed. What would you like to do with your day?
5 is going to get up and exit Zue's tiny hut. Is going to go out and examine these renewed trees. He is going to take the sickle of Segojan, and he's going to approach one of the trees to see if he can use his transport spell to see if he can get back to the Haven Eye.
You all sort of progressively choose to wake up as you will, but regardless, you wake up to 5 being outside of the hut. 5, you walk towards a tree that just yesterday was completely broken in half, splintered, and just waiting to waste away. But as you look at it now, it is there, and there is a slight color to it. It is not this gray, withering life. It is almost something emerging from within. So you take your sickle, and as you place it on the tree to transport via plants, you focus on where you want to go. But what appears before you is not the Haven Eye, but you see the city of Irimsal. You're almost like redirected to a nearby tree just right outside of the city, but not the tree itself.
5 is going to take that in, and his mind is going to flicker back to the people, the mutated inhabitants, and think back to the woman that he tried to bring back to life, wondering if it's possible for this crystal and whatever powers it might possess to do something similar. And then he hopes that he'll have a chance to get back there someday. And he returns back to the tiny hut.
Something strange happened during the night. I don't know whether it's the fact that Hades brought us back here, or if it's this presence.
And he holds up the Thornbasite.
But we're able,
if we choose to get back to Irumsol.
I think that's our best bet. At least get some answers.
The day is yours. I'll say that at this point, your tiny hut is beginning to dissipate, and you find yourselves still just stranded in this clearing.
Are we going in the hole?
Through the tree?
Through the tree.
Right this way. Swiftly, with my sickle, I pass over the mark, and the tree begins to slowly just open and at the sinews and just pull itself apart with a greenish glow at the center.
And there, Five and the rest of you see on the other side the same tower of Irumsol. In the time that you were here, Five, just but a few minutes, there is an individual standing at the center of the courtyard that you know very well. You see Varion, but with a sea of people behind him, looking in the direction of your tree.
They were not there before, but they are where we need to go.
They were also there when Sorene touched the tree.
That is true.
If this Thornbesite can open a way back to Fendraeya, it's not only saving us, it could save all of these people that have been trapped here for God knows how long. Do you think it's just limited to us?
That's a very good point, Rowan. I won't know until we get to the Haven Eye.
Well, 5, if we can figure out how 7 had it done in the past and how others did it from what we saw, it looked like they had it for a time period before it shrank. We saw the tieflings that escaped go through a portal too, while we were with Hades.
But in that situation, it was completely unstable, that opening. So we need to find a way of making it stay open.
I mean, with the full crystal, would it not?
I don't know if we want to come back to Fendraeya with a stable connection right now. If we know that that's what the Arcanum is coming for.
They're not coming back here. It was all a fluke, us getting here in the first place. We need to get them back more than the Arcanum needs to get here.
Actually, Zue has a really good point. What if this was the plan of the Arcanum all along? What if they sent us here with the hopes of retrieving the Thornbesite, knowing that if they acquired it, they would be given access to multiple worlds?
I don't know everything about the Arcanum, but I do know that it is something they're looking at.
So one of us stay back, let everyone through, and then break the connection.
Wonder if Varion could be trusted.
He does love his Haven Eye. It's worth a shot.
Am I going to be okay to go back in there? Am I opening them up to more bad things if I go back in?
I think the threats that were harming this city, I think we took care of them.
Okay. Rid shakes out another ribbon, almost from her palm, bright blue again, and ties up her hair, as we know she hates having her hair down. Shall we?
5, you want to talk to your friend? Or Zue, historian to historian?
I can talk to him.
Be my guest. Let's get home.
I need to ask you all a question first. What's the plan when we get back? We all have been shown possible futures of what happens with the Arcanum if their sway is allowed to continue. Brundarium is no more. My people are gone. Or at least severely diminished. Rid?
Yes.
Rid lost member of her family. Faramore is lost as well.
And Elberath.
What does our going back do? What is our plan? Like, how do we approach the Arcanum?
From what it seems like, a lot of these potential futures seem to hinge on the idea that we don't leave here and that we don't come back.
It was years down the line. I barely recognized Tarquin, my nephew, who took over the throne. I mean, he's not even close. There's still time to rally, to gather everyone. We don't need to do this immediately when we get through. We can't take down an entire organization with just 4 people.
You could get pretty far.
Not far enough.
Why don't we focus on getting back and cross that bridge when we come to it?
I will say that if this journey with Hades and Zue has taught me anything, is that if you cut off the head of the snake, it's pretty much dead. So Rid might actually have a really good point.
Why is there always the tone of surprise with this?
I've never been surprised, Rid.
That's actually very wise, Rid.
Do we even have access to the head? We have access to Ilianos, but there's a ladder that we have to go up, and that ladder gets scarier and scarier with each peg.
Even if we just get back to Ilianos, his place has a lot of information.
You know, I never did get paid for this job, and information's what I asked for.
You guys step through the tree and find yourselves at the entrance of the remains of Irimsal. And there, on the other side of the bridge, hooked horns, barefoot, Varion. Wondering gaze of his blind state, somehow piercing and looking right at you as you all emerge from the tree. 5, make a perception check for me.
17.
As you're kind of standing there and all of the people from the city are looking at you, you could have sworn that you saw, in a wispy-like design, that same red tiefling boy running through the crowd.
5 nudges Rowan. Rowan, I just saw a small red tiefling child. Did you see them as well?
Not that I know of.
Alright, that's very odd then. I'm seeing Sorene, but Sorene is a boy.
I don't know who that is. Was he Chimasaur's child? Did I miss a name?
He was, as Hades put it, his mistake. Zue's going to shapeshift into the little red tiefling boy. Started out like this, and then Hades gifted him the ability to change, kind of like me, as Zue changes back to their form.
When you change into the little tiefling, Rowan brightens up a little bit. Hades showed me. Not much, but we got a glimpse of whoever you were talking about, on the outskirts of Faramore, running through the woods. On the night I was chosen.
Hold on. Rowan, you're saying that in your experience of the moment when you were chosen, this tiefling child we know as Sorene, Hades' mistake, was also present.
I don't know if he was present that night, as Hades guided us away from the spot in the woods that I know too well. Walking down the path, he showed the child running through the woods and said,
Hades said that the kid didn't have anyone. He didn't have a goddess to love him like Rowan did. And we saw Hades helping the kid.
And Zue, as Rid says that, that's the vision you saw.
We also saw that, and Hades said it was his test or his opportunity to be more than he was, and that he failed. He also showed us a vision of this kid touching the tree, and that was when Varion lost his vision. And we also know that with Seven, he was also there when Seven discovered the Haven Eye and coming through.
And you also remember that Varion showed themselves through the tree. They emerged from the tree.
So we could maybe take seeing him as a good sign or not. Because Hades also said that he no longer exists and only exists in Hades' memory.
Well, there's really only one way to find out, isn't there?
You look over, and all of the people that are standing behind Varian are all holding their hand up. Like they're trying to clutch something, but all of their hands are up. There is a general sense of awe and shock in the faces of the people.
It looks like we might have a welcoming party.
Are they waiting for the crystal?
They seem to be the ones that might know how to use it best.
So let's give them what they want.
5 nods at Rowan and starts to walk towards the throng of people ahead of them.
You all begin to walk across the bridge. In between your legs, the red tiefling boy sort of crosses in between them. You see the boy clutch the hand of Varian and looking up, but Varian doesn't seem to notice. This child is just here, but almost like a memory that you can now see clearly. And the child begins to run towards the tower. As you enter the city, past the bridge, Varian looks at all of you in his blind state. What have you brought? And one by one, all the people part. Their hands come down and they bow their heads as Varian's arm points at the thorn beside.
5 proceeds through the crowd towards the tower.
You watch as Varian turns. As you pass by him, you all notice this as he begins to cry. Did you see him?
5 stops. See who?
The omen of time.
Yes.
Yes, we all did.
And you watch as Varian kind of turns and begins to walk in your direction, 5. Varian's hands sort of are down at his sides, but walking alongside him holding his finger is this red tiefling boy in that same wispy-looking incorporeal form. As Varian passes by you, he looks to you and he says, "This means a lot to the people. I hope you understand that. What you have provided them is hope, and we are eternally grateful. You know that the mind is very fragile. 5. Your brother was twisted by an idea, a belief, and he chased it through until the light shone upon him the truth. The mind can adapt, but the mind can also fool. It is up to you to decide what it is that you're actually seeing. I know he walks by my side because I believe that he is not gone. I choose to believe that I will find Sorne again. Come, I must show you something." You watch as Varian now begins to sort of shuffle and get closer towards the tower. And for the first time, sort of looks down in his blind state, and the child looks back up at him. And just as Varian gets closer to the steps of the tower, the child vanishes. What are the rest of you doing?
I think just walking slowly behind 5, making sure that he's protected, because he has something incredibly valuable right now, and watching the people.
Zue's gonna follow behind everyone at the very end.
Rid's ripping her tooth out.
So 5, do you follow Varian into the tower?
5 does follow Varian up the steps into the tower.
I think it's going in 5's pocket because he has the thorn beside.
You sort of peek around 5 and you see Rid just very quiet at first, but not until she got in your peripheral that just slightly placing a tooth.
Once you notice, Rid says in your head,
It's for the thorn beside. Just go with it.
Well, this may as well happen.
And he proceeds up the steps.
You all proceed up the steps, and Zue, with you trailing towards the tail end, you sort of like look at your surroundings a little bit more. You're sort of taking it all in as you're acting as the last sort of individual to enter the tower. You Notice the detail on the stairs, the archway of the door. And as it opens on its own, the Haven Eye there in front of you. Glowing bright white. It's beautiful. It always has been. And for you, Zue, and 5, you say to yourself, the Haven Eye. But do you remember the other name that it was called? Its true name, Yggdrasil. Varian begins to walk through the gnarled mess of vines that make up the tree, expanding all throughout the center area of this tower. And as Varian walks, he says, Sorane was, and always will be, just an absolute dream. That boy was born with such promise. And then he was just gone. We didn't mean to send him away as we did. He was plagued with such visions, it was... And he looks to you, Zue. You saw him. I know you did. All of you. He didn't know. How could he have known? He continues to walk now, and you remember the landing on the opposite side of the tower, and the stair that sort of is made up from the vines and parts of the tree that make up a staircase that heads to that landing. It begins to form itself again. And Varian slowly begins to walk up it. Zue, you again taking your surrounding, and you see it all. Vibrant and pure. You, push you, Zue. What were you gifted? What did you see him do?
I saw him touch the Haven Eye. With you.
It was not our intention to show him. You know, but then looks to you, Rid. The mind, when gifted with visions, and is trying to hold back the tears, can be a place where the soul escapes out of fear of what it sees. And so you can lose that aspect of yourself when you see so much. And then looks back to you, 5. And then looks to you, Rowan. Darkness. Without a light in this world, Sorane was just scared. And I hope that wherever he is, he knows that I only meant to give him comfort, not to show him endless possibilities. The universe is colliding amongst each other, the potential of it all, and where it eventually lead him. As Varian gets to the top of the landing, amongst the solid wall of stone, a door begins to form. A very tall double door appears before you, and it opens slightly. And Varian places his hand on the door that is still latched shut, with the open one in front of him. Takes a deep breath. And turns back to you all. I haven't been in this room in quite some time. And steps in.
Zue will follow him in.
Rid right behind Zue.
5 will follow behind Rid.
Rowan takes one look back at the main entrance and the sea of people outside, and then follows everyone.
And sure enough, Zue, as you step through, you see a massive chamber, much like the kitchen before, of a place that exists within the tower, but is not defined by the laws of its space. It is a beautiful room, almost like a library. Books collected in dust and spider webs and cobwebs all over. And there amongst the walls, you see portraits of Kaimasora with his kids. Kaimasora with this woman, tiefling, Domine. And there, in the center, a long table that's been cracked in pieces. Now, mind you, the portraits on the walls, hundreds of them. but each one of them slashed and torn and ripped. And as Varian keeps stepping forward, you see as his gaze looks up to what looks dark at first from the darkness of this room, but up ahead, a massive portrait of Kaimasora standing, very happy, with 4 kids. Karos, the youngest, who actually sits on the lap of the woman, who is sitting on a very regal-looking chair. Sado, the oldest, very proud and strong in this family portrait, but still just a boy. Maiso, the second oldest daughter, posing in a very not caring attitude. And then Kaime, the very shy but loving tiefling that spoke with you as well, standing next to them. Varian looks and he says, I have a feeling that at the end of it all, sometimes the things we try to save the most are sometimes the things that end up in our hands, burning. And maybe not intentional, but sometimes just out of our control. And you watch as Varian walks over and he presses his hand on a part of the portrait that is, the actual cloth itself has come down. And when he brings it up, there, standing right behind the chair, is that same red tiefling boy, sort of peeking out from behind the chair with a smile across his face. What Sorare saw that day was of all the horrors he would commit. He saw the endless possibility of what his life could be and the trajectory in which it was heading. Sorane was touched by something beyond me, but I think you saw what that was. It was the omen of time and death itself. Now I don't know how Sorane got in touch with this being, but in doing so, his heart was corrupted. So when he touched the tree, and you remember this, Zue and 5, this young boy touching the tree and his hand getting sucked in, black ichor running through the tree, the voice of Hades in your mind. My mistake. And then the boy being shot out as Varian is thrown off as well. Varian lets go of the portrait and the piece of cloth comes down. He saw a future that could come to pass. And he was scared. So I let him leave. And he ran. He ran far, far away. I didn't have it in my heart to tell his father that it was I who doomed his son. How could I look at Domine the same way again? You watch as he slumps down. And in this moment, Zue, you are very studious, you're very knowledgeable. There is something about the name Yggdrasil that rings true to you. There is something about the way in which the stairs to the entry of this tower are familiar to you. This library seems like a room you spent much time in. A version, not the same. Yggdrasil. That name, that's the name of the Havenai, the tree of life. But it is also the name of Ilinas' mansion. And for today, that's a wrap.
Damn.
No!
Thank you all so much for listening. Catch us in 2 weeks, where sometimes the future has the possibility of altering the mind to such a way we may never know its true consequences.